Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Whole Woman podcast. I'm your hostess, Sanika, and I'm back with a brand new episode. So, I totally missed last week for several reasons, but we are back and better. And remember that on this here podcast, The Whole Woman, we talk about everything. Anything that you can think about, we talk about it because we want to dive deeper so that we can become better persons, better individuals. So, of course, whereas anyone can tune in, I do target my ladies, but just the same, you never know who this might help. So, feel free to chime in, feel free to leave a comment, feel free to listen and to stay subscribed for more episodes, for more content. And remember that on the Whole Woman podcast, we're addressing the matters of the mind, body, and soul so we can bloom and learn to become whole. Now, for today's episode, it is titled Striving versus Surviving. When will it be my turn? Striving versus surviving. When will it be my turn? And this is something that I think it it's a part of everyday life. It's a part of everyone's journey, I should say. Like everyone has to go through that phase in their life where they're elevated, and also sometimes they get a bit of downtime, as in, it's a whole idea of mountains and valleys. And this is what I wanted to basically talk about today, because even though we know that it's integral to our growth, it's something that can happen to just about anyone. Many times we don't know how to deal with it. We don't know how to live through it. We don't know how to look on the brighter side. We don't know how to even give ourselves grace. And we're going to touch on that. So before we even continue with the episode, as per usual, let's get right into this piece that I wrote. You can't tell me about the rain if all you've seen is sunshine. You can't tell me about pain if all you felt was high school heartbreaks and a few lies. You can't tell me about breakthrough if you've never had to fight to experience sunlight. In addition to that being a poem piece, that was an excerpt from a blog that I wrote, because as I had stated before, I do have a blog. It's called The Gem Mind Through Christ, where I share my Christ-like experience, just me in my life as a Christian. I don't want to say certain aspects. I touch on multiple topics, but it's essentially how I navigate life as a Christian, as a young Christian. And one of the blog posts that I had written was titled Rose-Colored Glasses. So the commentary I had left was, life is beautiful, but life is also a mess. There comes a time when, after you have been worn out, burnt out, used, abused, tossed aside, but alive, that you ask yourself, what's next? Do you sulk into despair for eternity, or do you simply proceed with hope or even indifference, or even pretense? When a storm passes and leaves the debris of tomorrow lying around, do you wait, anticipate the next storm while doing nothing, or do you acknowledge, move on, and even prepare for the days to come? I have learned that although happiness is subjective, emotions fleeting, and life ever changing, when physically the humans are left on the edge of not knowing, sometimes all we can do is brush off with broken limbs, scars, and a few black eyes, maybe a few signs of PTSD that you should check out. All you can do is say, I survived. So that was just a part of the overall blog. If you wish to check it out, you can definitely click the link below. Feel free to check out my YouTube channel. You'll see everything linked below, or you can just search it up. It's The Gem Mind Through Christ, and you'll see all of my blog posts. That one was specifically titled Rose Colored Glasses, Seeing the Bright Side of Everything Blindly at Times. And I actually think that is a really good segue into the topic that I am addressing today, because even on the blog, something that I remember talking about was how oftentimes we really do have to continue wearing glasses, rose colored glasses to be specific, in order to make it through, in order to survive, in order to withstand whatever trauma or whatever trials that we're currently facing. Sometimes we have to say to ourselves that eventually, we have to see the rain, walk into the rain, and pretend like it's a pool to relax in at times. And it's not necessarily denying one situation, meaning that you're trying to quote unquote avoid it. Like you're not being delusional, even though that was something that I also addressed, that being the Lulu sometimes it's a Lulu, but sometimes you really have to speak life. You have to speak life even when it looks dark. Like you have to say, oh, I see the sunshine even when it's raining. Like, eventually things will change. There will be a change, there will be a difference. And that was really the essence of that blog. And even now, with today's topic, thriving versus surviving, when someone is thriving, I what comes to my mind is someone who is flourishing, someone who is established, someone who is at a place or at a point in their lives where they can breathe easy, where they can relax more so, where effort is there, but you have to it's little effort in comparison to someone who is in this case surviving. Survival at times, even though it's good to be a survivor, like everybody wants to scream at the top of their lungs, I'm a survivor. I'm sure we all know the songs. Everybody wants to say, I'm a survivor, I beat this, I beat that. Like, life has thrown many things at me, but I'm still here, I'm still alive, yada yada yada. Of course, the reality is we want to be relentless. We want to say that we are resilient, that we have overcome, that we are the cavemen and the soldiers and the figure that ever represented coolness and just being a mastermind at defeating what was sent out to defeat them. Like, we want to be that representation. We want to be like them. And that is totally understandable. But I've realized that in life, no matter how persons are always like, oh, yes, I've beat this, I've beat that. As the human beings that we are, at times we do want a break. Like, nobody wants to consistently or constantly have to be on the edge. I mean, if you're an adrenaline junkie and you want to do the skydiving and whatever, like, that's a different type of edge. But I mean, you're on the edge in terms of, let's say, finances, in terms of love, in terms of just trying to get through life. Nothing is ever concrete to the point where you can look back and be like, oh yes, that was so easy, that was so smooth, that was smooth sailing for me. It's not like that. And the reality is, we all have different journeys. We at the same time, but we all use our time differently. And something that I've actually been thinking about recently is, life is so funny because we exhaust so much energy, so much strength into getting the next big thing, into getting the house, the car, the family, the this, the that, only to die. And when you really, if you're really to sit down and even just assess life for what it is, as beautiful as it is, you have to really say to yourself, because when you get all of these things, the things that society, or even, well, society, of course, because humans are in society, when we get all of the things that society has deemed makes us a man and makes us a woman, makes us whole, when we get all of that, sometimes we are still left empty. And as I would have said in one of my previous podcasts, is what really and truly satisfies the soul is having a relationship with God, walking in a purpose driven life, like doing what it is that God set you out to do. Because when it is that we've accomplished the leg of our lives, in terms of getting the Benz, in terms of getting the 3-story mansion, oftentimes you still see yourself with a type of loneliness, a type of longing. You're still searching aimlessly and questioning, or like, why am I not fulfilled? And nothing, even though that happens, because as I just mentioned, it's so important, it's so imperative that we find Christ, that we build a relationship with Him, that we know Him. But in addition to that, even persons who know God, who have developed a relationship, who can say, oh, yes, I know who my Lord and Savior is, they too still are not immune to these feelings, the feeling of wanting more, the desire to succeed, the desire to do well. And you have persons who are dedicated, who are faithful, and this aspect is from a Christian standpoint. They're dedicated, they're faithful, but it seems as if they're still in a corner. They're still in a position where they can't seem to reach the pinnacle of success. They can't seem to attain what it is that others around them have, or they can't even attain the level of success that they have set forth for themselves. Because similar to things like love, I believe that success is really and truly all about perspective. It's something that is defined by the individual. Like, it's about perspective. And I say that because someone's success can simply be to to own a car. That's it, nothing else. While someone else, they need like a business, they need the house, they need the Gucci bags, like everyone's definition of success, it can vary. So you have this person who is doing classically what seems right, but yet still they're still in a corner. They're not achieving what seems near to them or what is dear to them. They can't seem to touch it. And it's then at this moment in time, as I stated and as I mentioned, the topic was you're living on the edge, in the sense of you are barely there. And even myself, like, I can say for a fact that I know the valley and I also know the mountaintop. You understand? And if we really want to even go a bit more spiritual, we know, say, we me and the pot were kicking in. We know in the valley, that is where our soul is restored. But oftentimes you have to say to yourself, when is it going to really and truly be my time? Like, what else is next? What else do I have to do? How do I escape from survival mode to thriving mode? To thriving mode, how can I escape that? How can I step into that new leg of life? And it's something that I've asked myself as well. It's something that many people, I'm sure, have asked others. Many people have really and truly try to dissect it. Like, how do you reach the next step, the next leg of the journey, when you have been in what seems to be the dungeon, what seems to be the point where there is no breakthrough, there's no light. Like, you're trying to be positive, but it really and truly seems as if there's just nothing out there for you. And I think, and this is something that I'm learning, because I honestly feel like in recent times where I've been experiencing, I don't want to say isolation, because isolation can be connotated as something negative, but when I've been in seasons where I had to spend time with myself, where I had to really and truly take a step back and assess certain things, I've realized more than ever before how contentment is so essential. How contentment really and truly oftentimes is the leg that is needed to go forward. There is a scriptural reference to say that God will oftentimes give you the little to see how it is that you work with the little before He entrusts you with the much, entrusts you with the lot. And I'm going to try to find that right away. And this was not supposed to be so, as I stated, so biblical, but it fits. It fits. And yes, yes, yes. So it is Luke 16 verse 10, and it says, if you are faithful in little things, you will be faithful in large ones. But if you are dishonest in little things, you won't be honest with greater responsibilities. And even this aspect, this other verse, it says, and if you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches of heaven? And this is the NLT version, the New Living Translation. And hold on one sec. even for the NKJV version, it says, "He who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much, and he who is unjust in what is least is unjust also in much." And I think that is something that really encourages persons to really and truly just look around and appreciate even what seems to be meager, what seems to be so uninviting, what seems to be so unappealing. And I say those terminologies because many times we look at our circumstances and we say, "Oh, I wish I had this," or "I'm not satisfied with this. This is not good enough. Like the car is not giving the same type of vibe like everyone else's. The shoe needs to be a bit more elevated. It should have been a different brand. It's stripping a bit. The handbag, it should have been a Birkin bag instead of the Coach bag that I have." Like there's so many times where we sit and we compare, and even though realistically it's life, like especially now with things like social media, we see things, and it's okay to look to persons as a source of inspiration. But I've realized how easy it is for us to be ensnared into the trap of thinking that we need something like somebody else, or we need to ensure that we get what someone else has in order to be on their level, or to become even better than them. And as I mentioned, nothing is wrong with having a source of inspiration to want to get to that point for yourself, but we have to ensure that we don't get in over our heads to the part where we become so obsessed on gaining materialistic wealth. And for until it is that we actually gain it, if we do attain it, we are miserable. Like we don't know how to live in the moment. We don't know how to be present. We don't know how to appreciate today. Instead, we are so transfixed on what could potentially be for 6 months down the line. You hear of a promotion, let's say, and because of the fact that you hear about a promotion, in the two let's say you have 2 months until you go into that space. For the 2 months until you get into that space, you treat everyone like dirt. You don't save anymore because you're going to go to a place that will probably pay you more. Like you are no longer present. You are just so consumed with the things of the future, the same future that is not even guaranteed, because tomorrow is guaranteed to no man. And I've realized, and I am learning to actually accept it for even myself more and more as I go along, how important as well it is for not for me not to just only be content, but how important it is for me to cherish the small things that I have. Like even if it's on the verge of being broken, as long as it's still in a condition, as long as it's still in a frame where I can actually still make the best use of it, like I've realized how essential that is. And I'm actually going to just list a few things that I've realized have worked for me, and things that I'm seeing have gotten myself results as a matter of fact. And as I mentioned, the first one is being content, like just understanding that yes, this is where you are right now. This is not necessarily where you want to remain, but contentment is so key to moving on. And there is also the whole aspect of appreciating what is before you currently, like appreciate the things that you do have. There is also the whole idea of the fact that you can, while it is that you have what seems to not be ideal around you, you can also make room for the things that is to come. Honestly, oftentimes making room means you have to remove some of the things that are broken, some of the things that are no longer no longer serving their purpose. I remember, I think it was, I don't remember. I don't want to say someone's name and it's not them, but I remember listening to this. I know it was a public figure, and he was basically saying that he always wanted a car, but he had an old car that he could not sell, and he used to basically. I don't know if it wasn't working or if it was a case where it was just parked. I think it was just parked in his garage. And what he had to do, like he kept saying that he wanted to buy a new car, he wanted to get a new car, but he had the old car and he wasn't selling it, he wasn't driving it. It was in the parking lot. And what he eventually had to do, I think it was as a result of what his mother said to him, he had to sell the car, because sometimes in order to get something, we have to remove what is old and no longer serving us in order to welcome what is new. And another thing I want to say as well, we have to at times take a leap of faith. Similar, intertwined with number three, you have to take a leap of faith, because come on, as I just mentioned, like he sold his old car. Some people are probably gonna be like, why never fix it, blah blah blah. But sometimes you have to take a leap of faith. You have to, let's say you plan to migrate. Start going online, looking at jobs and saying, this job would fit me. Start looking at places and saying, I like this neighborhood. That's how you take a leap of faith. You start picturing yourselves, not delusionally, because the reality is, if you want to blindly say, oh yes, I'm going to be the CEO, and you want to be the CEO of a corporation, you have no experience, there's nothing that is specifically saying that you could definitely get the position, then you're a delusional. But if it's a case where you know that you have the potential, it's just for you to unlock that potential, there's absolutely nothing wrong with faithfully getting up, filled with hope, looking at places, looking at the careers, looking at houses that can definitely suit the type of idea that you have in mind. Like taking a leap of faith, it might seem crazy to others, but oftentimes, and I've seen it for even myself, I'd seen it when I wanted to go to school. I had no idea how I would do it, but I did it simply because I said to myself, this is what I wanted. Like I started looking, and this was something I got from a friend of mine when she started to tell me a story of how similar to myself, it was about school and how she basically took a leap of faith and she said, I'm going to school, and she started to get supplies. And it's something that I've practiced time and time again. Like if I want something, I'm picturing myself in that position. I'm getting the little things, not always necessarily um tangible. Sometimes it's even, for example, like you want, and you eventually picture yourself, let's say, as a, I don't know, like you want to be a supervisor. I'm just so stuck on jobs and homes and whatever, but I hope everyone gets the point. So let's say you eventually want to become a supervisor. You're currently in a totally different job title. However, what you start to do in the evening, you randomly start to take classes on supervisory management or something akin to that type of field. Not that you're planning to leave the job tomorrow, not that you're planning to move on and quit everything tomorrow, but that's, if it's like 5 years or so down the line, you want to do something in that. That's how you make that move. That's how you really and truly step into faithfulness. That's how you decide to yourself, like, I want a change. And I think as well that thriving is also all about perspective as well. And the reason why I say that is, sometimes, as I mentioned as well, we see so many people and they have all that seems materialistically intact. We see people who don't have much, yet still they're the ones smiling. And it's been said time and time again, like, life is really what you make it. So sometimes while we're sulking and we're saying to ourselves, I will never be happy, I will never be in the position where I can honestly just relax, I don't have to worry about bills, I don't have to. Sometimes we have to really and truly just meet ourselves at the place where life has taken us. And I know that sounds so philosophical, but you're probably like, what do you even mean? And I say that because oftentimes the desires, the goals that we have in mind, it is not intertwined, it is not in line with the reality that we are living. We oftentimes forget, for example, like, and this is something I think, if it has been said in multiple places, like for example, you're starting afresh, you're by yourself, like, give yourself some grace when you realize that other persons might be pushing a Benz, other persons might be able to go to a resort 10 times for the year. But remember, you're doing it by yourself. Like, meet yourself in the space that you're at, like, not just physically, because physically physically you're already there, but mentally and emotionally, remind yourself that you are working with the resources that you have. You are trying to make use of the things that you currently can control. Like, allow yourself to grow, allow yourself to understand that everyone's time is different, and allow yourself to understand that really and truly everyone's journey is different. Tomorrow you might be in the valley, right? And then in the blink of an eye, you're on the mountaintop. But in order to get to the mountain, sometimes you have to appreciate the valley seasons. And it's something that I'm learning. Like, don't suppress emotions, don't suppress the journey that you are on as a result of being ashamed. Like, learn how to wholeheartedly love every aspect of your life, even when it's not worth loving, even when it feels as if, oh my gosh, it's going to collapse, even when it feels as if you're tired of bleeding. As a survivor, we have to learn how to really and truly navigate this life, and how to remain optimistic, and how to just really and truly find something to put our trust in. And by something, I should say someone, and that's really and truly Jesus, because without him, it honestly, we're going to fall back into patterns. I understand that not everyone knows him, not everyone can really and truly speak about him in such a way where you can be like, are you really sure? Like, are you certain? But trust me, I am certain. Sometimes it's not our own selves that allow us to really and truly get to the pinnacle, get to the point where we need to be, but it's the spirit that is within us. And with that being said, guys, because I'm trying to not make these as long as how they are tending to become, but that's it for this episode. And remember to stay tuned, to subscribe. Until next time, peace out.